Hi, my name is Tiffany Richardson with Medical Advantage. I'm an optimization consultant on the practice solutions team. Today, we're going to review eClinicalTouch and how it's utilized once you've accessed the server and set it up so that you can get into ECW. You're going to use your logins like you would for ECW login. It's going to have the same username and password that you have it for your desktop environment. When you first log into eClinicalTouch, one of the first places you'll land is on the office visit screen. You can navigate down at the bottom. You have different icons at the bottom for documents, home, encounters, labs, messages. Think of those as your jelly bean counts at the bottom. And then your ECW home button is always going to take you back to your office visit screen. The eClinicalTouch application is really used for the clinical side of operations throughout the triaging and documentation processes. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to review the settings that come along with your eClinicalTouch. So to ensure that the environment is set up in a way that makes sense for you as you're using the application. So to access the settings portion of your eClinicalTouch application, down at the very bottom, you'll see an ECW icon. If you click on that ECW icon, it's going to take you into this view here. You can see over at the right, these are all the panels that you have open. You can go ahead and click those little panels to close those panels out, and that'll close whatever option, whatever area that you have open, except for the area that you're currently working in, which is this office visit option. You'll see up at the top left, there's a log out option. So you can log out from coming to this screen. You have your My Settings. So if you click onto My Settings, you can come through your My Settings and you see you have progress notes, grow charts, office visit. You can kind of define what you want these areas to be configured. So for progress note, as an example, if I'm working as a provider in the clinic, I won't necessarily want to see OB history or GYN history, just depending on what data I'm collecting. I may not want to see some of the other items like PT assessment, won't need that. Therapeutic interventions, those are physical therapy items. I can also keep going and remove items that I don't want to see on my panel when I'm documenting in the progress note. So I do recommend that if you are going to adjust these things, make sure that you're not removing anything that you would use on a daily basis when you're documenting your note, because it will remove the options from your list. You can also put these in a different order as well. So if I hit sort now, up at the top right, when I hit sort, and I'll go back to that just to demonstrate again. So at the top right, there's a sort option. I click on that. Now I can move these items around based on the order that I would document them in. If I'm going to document, the chief complaint, then HPI, then current meds, then go into medical history, I can order these in a way that makes sense so that I see them in that order. So once you have set your order, you can hit select and it's going to set that order for you. So sort top right, 3 horizontal lines, move it around, hit set select to save those options. The next areas like your growth chart settings. If you want growth chart tutorials, you can turn that on or off here. Default settings, when you look at your referrals, are you wanting to see incoming or outgoing by default? And then for visit code setting, do we want to search by description, CPT, or E&M code? So you have those options to set as your defaults in those windows. For the office visit screen, we can show the patient picture or not display the patient picture. Then we come on down to configure categories as the next section. So for our categories that we see in different sections of the notes, so these categories are the categories I see in my HPI. Do I want to see these categories in my HPI? So you can see up at the top, we have HPI. And if I click on the HPI up at the top, then I have all my other default categories. So I can change if I'm doing immunizations or DI orders, lab companies, vitals, any items that I would like to see in those areas or not display in those areas. I can alter that by those categories. So as an example with HPI, if I'm not documenting every one of these categories, then I can turn that off on a section so I don't have to see it in my note as I'm documenting it. Those are in real-time save settings. So once you remove or add a checkbox next to an item, it will save it in real time. And again, to adjust your category, if you want to look at a different one besides HPI, just click on the top where it says HPI, and you can alter what items that you want to view. Then we come over to camera files upload folder. So these are all your folders that are available in your database, whatever you have in your database, and you can view those by clicking, putting a check mark next to those items. So this is what this is going to do is it's going to default. So when you upload an item into eClinicalTouch, where do you want that item to land? What folder do you want it to land in? And you can design what folder you want it to land in, but it will always land in that folder wherever it is selected. So in this case, I put it to patient documents. You have an option to print, so you can select number of medications to print per page, default 1 or 2. Then we have biometric ID settings. This will allow your eClinicalTouch to utilize your ECW biometrics. So that what that means is if you have a fingerprint ID or face print ID that is configured in your device, it will utilize those biometrics and allow your re-login every time instead of you having to enter a password and a username every time. So it's a lot faster. And it's based on your biometrics. So you would just turn that on by toggling on that item, and that'll turn on your biometrics. The next section we have is favorites. So if we click in to the chief complaints side of our favorites, then we can favorite, we could look at those favorites lists and be able to document the information from that. So if I go say abdominal cramps, I want to make that a favorite, abdominal pain, make that a favorite. Now the next time whenever I'm going into the chief complaint, those would display as my favorites. Medical history, if there's certain items that are considered my favorites that are common that I'm doing that a lot of my patients have a diagnosis of, I can favorite those diagnoses, and that'll make it entry a lot faster the next time by selecting one of my favorites. Allergies, same thing. What would be a common allergy and being able to identify that faster without having to do the search every time. But again, those are just listing out what items that you would list as favorites. And then there's a radar app at the very bottom. Once you have all your eClinicalTouch settings set the way you want, up at the top left, you can mark done, and that'll close out your My Settings. We have an update password section. If you need to ever update your password, you can go ahead and click in there and update your password just like you would in ECW in the desktop version. If you want to log network activity to see if there's a performance issue or something, you could start logging that, and then ECW could identify if there's a problem. We have Quick Notes Builder. If we want to build out our Quick Notes here, we can go ahead and create the template of that quick note and be able to create those quick notes here. Refresh our bean counts. It should refresh, but if it doesn't, you do have the ability to manually refresh the counts that are now displaying up at the top. We have memory usage displayed, allowing us to a little bit know how much our application is using up of our iPad. We have our last logged in, terms of use, and privacy policy. We have a timeline here of patients that have arrived, any priority encounters, any jelly beans that are high priority, any document items that are open, and then you can also see any labs and stuff. So this is kind of like your activity panel for your day. I'm going to go back to home, so it takes me back to the office visit screen, or I can click on the office visit icon here over to the right, or I can click the home button up at the top. So here I'm brought back to my office visit screen. Up at the top of your office visit screen, you're going to have a calendar date. If you click on that calendar date, you can alter your month, day, year period from here. And you can also mark today if you had gone up or behind in date without having to go and cycle through all those dates. You can do that as well. You can see a list of all the dates here up at the top, and this does move back and forth. So I can go back to different dates and view those dates and those encounters on those dates. Then I'm going to come back to the 25th and I'll see any appointments that are scheduled on the 25th. To the far right, you have an edit option. No encounters, so it's not going to let me edit there. Coming down from the calendar date view where I can select which date I want to look. I can also search encounters, which I'm not going to search currently because I don't have anything listed. Um, I can also view the call, like the items that are listed. I can view them a little differently here. And if I click on the funnel icon, I can see the providers and the filters to filter out the providers, the date. So again, the funnel icon, I can choose my provider for all. I can choose my time, my visit type, my facility. I can sort by appointment time, and I can also display specific visit statuses. So you'll want to filter these to see the right information. And you can see here now that I filtered in my provider, you'll see now I can see the appointment that's scheduled for today. And if I click the different view, it's either going to show it in a panel view like this or in a dashboard view like this, either way. And if I click on that dashboard view, it'll pull it in the progress note. Just takes a moment, but it pulls you over to the progress note when you click on it from the dashboard view versus the panel view. The panel view, you do have the ability to kind of click into some areas, and we'll review that in just a moment. Next to the funnel icon, you have the plus sign that allows you to create an appointment for a patient. And the other thing you can do also, besides creating an appointment, I mentioned the date up at the very top says September 2023. Right next to it, there's a lookup icon. That's your patient lookup, like what you're used to in the desktop version. You can alter the filter type and search patients in this view as well. So that's your patient lookup next to the calendar up in the top left. When I'm using the tile view, if I click on the patient's their initials or whatever, it's going to display the progress note. So that where it says TT or Test Tiffany, anywhere in there, it's going to open up the progress note. If I click on the eye icon that's at the bottom, I have the ability to update and count the status and the room number and such the patient is in. So I can go ahead and mark in check-in. I can put the status with nurse, and I can put the room they're in. And then mark done. And I'll be able to see room number 4, visit type, and status. If I want to create a appointment from here, I can just click on create appointment from here as well. It's another tile of its own. And if I'm in the dashboard tiles versus the tile view, so I click the 3 horizontal lines next to the funnels to the left of the funnel or the dashboard with the dots. And the same, I can see the eye update information here. And I can also mark the checkout, check-in, all that status. When I click on the patient's name, it's going to take me into their progress note, and now I can see their progress note. Up at the top left of the progress note, you're going to notice a little arrow check mark. That is to mark the chart complete. So think of when you mark the chart done on the billing window, that's your marking it done. The lock indicator, that is if you want to lock or assign this note to somebody, but you can go ahead and lock this encounter from this view. The next icon is just taking you back to view the progress note. So if you're in a section and you want to go back to viewing the progress note, you would just click on the little progress note icon next to the lock symbol. Still working our way across the top, we have the patient information and their birthday, account number, appointment information. And over to the right, we have an eye icon. That eye icon is like your sticky notes. So as you look at your sticky notes up at the top of the progress note, those are your sticky notes for the little eye icon. It's your information, patient information, but it gives you all your sticky notes. The little box with an arrow pointing up, that is your medications, so where you like your common send window. So whenever you're going to send a medication or something, you can click that arrow pointing up and it's going to display the common send information that you would normally see when you're sending orders, progress note, education, or medications for a patient. To the right of that is your family hub. So, or your, excuse me, your encounter list. So if you want to look at previous encounters, this would be a way to pull and look at those encounters previously used. So this is 2 of 111, and I'm just kind of moving my hand across the screen left and right to alter the encounter view that I'm looking at. So it's very user friendly in the sense you just kind of move the system around where you want to be so you can see what it is you're looking at. I can also click on encounters lists and I can see a list of encounters and be able to view those. If I want to lock the encounter, I can go to load notes and I can mark done to close that window. So the 2 people icon, that's your encounters list to view the previous encounters. Then I have an ICW icon. That's your interactive clinical wizard. It's what you're used to seeing in the desktop version. So I can click on that and pop that screen out to view that information and move that to my chart as well. So as a nurse working triaging a patient, I'm going to start in my allergies, which is going to be in my overview tab. And I can actually merge those allergies over from the allergies section. So I just click that merge icon, it merges my allergies in. Then I can go to my history tab, which has all my medical, surgical, social, family, and just merge those sections in to review with the patient. Okay, and there's all my histories have been merged in. If I need to view any labs or referrals or anything that have been ordered, I can click on the DRTLA tab and I can see any labs or testing that has been ordered on this patient, along with telephone encounters, web encounters, referrals. And I can also view documents that have been attached recently from here and any actions that are open on this patient. Now, to document into certain sections, you notice you aren't able just to click into these areas like you do on ECW on the desktop version. So when you click on like family history, none of that's going to open. All those hotspots are on the left-hand side. And when I reviewed what items that you want to see in your progress note is what displays on this left-hand side. If you remove items off here, like templates as an example, you will not be able to drop your templates from here. So you need to make sure that whatever you've designed in your settings, under my settings, and in progress note, that you have it turned on so that you can use it. So all of these items are what I'm discussing in the progress note on that left-hand side to be able to view or to put it in an order that makes sense from a clinical standpoint as you work through a note. So I'm going to go back into the progress note, and you'll see progress note up at the top left here. That's navigating to show the whole progress note again. If I click on chief complaint, it's going to open up the section for chief complaints. And then I can either search for a complaint, or I can add a new complaint by clicking on the plus sign and typing that in here. And now cough has been added. If I need to add a new one, I just go to the plus sign again and put in now sore throat has been added. And eClinicalTouch training was the original name for the appointment, so that's why that item is still displaying there. I'm just clicking off to come back to the chief complaint. If I need to alter, like take something away, I can click on the edit and then mark like the eClinicalTouch training, remove that item, and now my chief complaint is cleaned up. Mark done. And I can go back to my progress note on the left-hand side here at the top, and you can see the chief complaint has been updated. Same thing with HPI. I go into the HPI. I can choose the category that I want to document in. So like if I want to do today's visit or interim history, they're usually in alphabetical order. And that's why I said my settings will help keep this clean. I'm going to do constitutional. It'll keep it clean so you don't see a bunch of categories that you're not utilizing. So you're only seeing the categories you're utilizing. But be mindful that these settings will impact your desktop version as well. They are mapped together. So if you make an adjustment to not view that category any longer, that category will not be viewable from the desktop either. The templates and stuff will be able to pull it in, but you won't see it in your list without updating your category list. And then you can choose from constitutional, there's some pre-built items usually in there for complaint or denies, where you see the C and D. The first radio buttons is for complaint of, the second set of radio buttons is for deny. So if the patient is denying fatigue, but is complaining of fever, not complaining of joint pains or neck pain, but maybe has some night sweats, no changes in weight, no myalgia, and then I can go ahead and close that. And all of my complaints, my constitutional information drops in. If I go back over into HPI, again, I was in constitutional. Click at the bottom right, there's a show notes down at the bottom right hand side. And then I can click in here and start typing in my notes. Okay. Mark done, and that's just as if your notes. So again, bottom right hand side of any of the category selections where you're used to putting notes, you have to click on show notes at the bottom right, and then there's a header and footer, so it'll be above or below the category items of complaints and denies. And then whenever I click into the notes section, I can free type, or I can use my keyboard shortcuts on the left to document information as well. Once I've finished that section, I can go back to progress note up at the top left, and then it'll display my information that I just typed in. Then I come over to the allergies and intolerance, and I can update their allergies. If there's no updates to their allergies, like this metformin was not accurate, that would need to be updated. That's just for demonstration purposes of how an uncoded allergy looks. So you would need to make sure if you see a U like that, that you're putting it in as a medication, especially needs to be mapped to a active medication in the compendium without an orange U. Then we can also verify the medications from here. So if the patient, as we're going through the workflow, we're asking them, are these still current? They say yes. We go ahead and mark allergies verified. We can go over to the current medications on the left-hand panel. I'll get an alert for any past RX and click OK. And up at the top, you'll see current, past, external, and unreconciled tabs. So you can view anything that was past, that wasn't reconciled in a past visit, or medications that weren't reconciled at all. Also at the top, you have a verified option. So once you've done all your medication verification, you can mark verified. You have the option to edit this window or mark taking, not taking, discontinued, or unknown for the items here. So I can mark all as taking. And then if I want to edit, up at the top right, there's an edit icon. I can go and remove items that are not accurate by clicking on the little red signs, or I can also reorder these medications if I want them in a different order. I go ahead and mark done, and it's going to have all the items put in there as I had it. If I want to add a medication, click on the search icon, the magnifying glass, and then I'll be able to search an RX from there. And then I'm going to put in so I pick up lisinopril. It gives me the formularies. I can click on whichever one is accurate and then close. My lisinopril is here. I can also click into the fields for start date. If there's a start date on it, I can click and put a stop date. I can put notes and free type those. And I can also put in a provider. If it's a referring provider or something like that, I can link that to a provider that has ordered that medication. Once I have all my medications the way I want them and they're all accurate, I mark verified, and those medications will be verified on this visit. Just to see what everything looks like, I'm going to go back to my progress note icon, and it's going to take me back to the progress note, and I can see what's been completed so far. Again, my histories, I pulled those over from my ICW on the right chart panel, so I'll need to verify that information. I'll go into my medical history, mark history verified once I've viewed the items that are listed in their history list. Go to surgical history. Here's the surgeries that are listed. Mark surgical history verified. Go to family history. See if there's any updates to their family history. Deceased, alive, year of birth will auto calculate the age of the patient's family member. And when that patient is deceased, it'll stop aging it. Once I verified their family history, and if no additional changes, I mark family history verified. Then I can go to social history, and I can document any of the social history items, or I can use my smart forms if there's a smart form connected. So down at the bottom, you'll have an option for smart forms. Again, you can put this order in the order that you would do your note from start to finish. So I can either use the social history for items that are built into that area, or I can click on smart forms and click directly into the section. So if I wanted to do tobacco control, mark the information, update anything here, hit save. That smart form will get thrown into their social history as updated information. And again, I can also go to social history, and there's a tobacco use. And then same thing, you can go in here, and that's going to pull up the smart form. So it doesn't matter if you do it from the smart form, it just may be a little easier to find. Whereas if you do it from the social history, you have to navigate into that section in order to document it, but it works the same way. For ROS, provider can come in and choose general constitutional and update the information manually, or they can do a template by going to the section in the left panel for templates, and then they can choose the templates. They can use their favorites. Up at the top, I have my little favorites icon with the star. If I deselect the favorites, it's going to display everything that is not a favorite. And then if I click on the star, it's going to display my favorites. I have patient specific here where you have generic is what I have defaulted, but I can also choose patient specific. And then I can merge a previous encounter to this encounter without having to redo or select all the sections separately. I can go in and choose a previous encounter documentation. This one just doesn't have anything on it. But if it did, I'd be able to pull that in. Up at the top, you have options. If you click on options, this is the items you want to pull in. So if you say you like the ROS on that previous encounter and you want to pull it over and just update the ROS, then you'd want to deselect everything but ROS in this list so that you don't pull the entire note documentation over, just the ROS section. So options is very important. Whatever the options are is what drives what pulls over from that previous encounter. See if there's another one that has some documentation that I can pull over. So this one, as an example, has quite a bit of documentation for history. And you can't pull histories except for social history now. Social history was a lot on V12. But I can see like my treatment, I can see my assessment, my review of systems is documented here. And it doesn't look like the exam is documented on this one. So I can pull the ROS in and say if I want to update this information from the ROS to be what's in my current template. So I'd want to make sure that everything else is deselected but ROS. Now I have everything but ROS, and I'm going to do a merge template. And remember, merge and copy, same way in desktop. Merge is going to add it to existing information. Copy will erase whatever is in that section and replace it with whatever is in your template, whether it's a patient specific or a generic template. So if you hit copy, you're going to replace the documentation and erase what was existing in the chart. Merge, on the other hand, is going to merge it in with the existing. Then you get a message. I clicked on merge. So I got a message saying that documentation has been merged. I click OK. And now if I come back to my progress note view, I can see my ROS has been updated with my information that I pulled from that patient specific chart. So same documentation pulled over. Now, if I want to update that ROS, now that I've got it in there, I'll have to go to that general constitutional section, and you can see the options that have been marked. No, 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 here, weight gain, yes. So you can click into that section and take those out. Denies weight gain, change in appetite, admits. And these were items that were in the notes section. So to clear out the notes, I have to come into the I, take that out. And if I want to change it here as the main option. So for each one of those, I have a notes section, and some of them you might see like a patient denies, patient complaining of up at the top, and you can just click into the I and put everything that you want on that one. So patient denies all of those things, but patient is complaining of all of these things, like that. Now, once I finish documenting in the different ways that you can document the ROS, then I can click on my progress note to come back over to my progress note and view that information. So I come over to my progress note and I can see in the ROS, If I do choose to do it under one category item, like patient denies and patient complaining of, there's my options. If I want to do each independent symptom and document denies or complains of, or yes or no, whether it's a free type or a option to choose from for admits and denies, that's how the three different methods and the way that it can display in the note for you. The vitals, I'm going to click on the vitals. And then once I click into the search field of the vitals, it displays all of the vital options that you would be able to document. So I clicked into the search bar. I'm going to go back out and come back to vitals and click into the search bar, and you'll see all the lists, or you can search in the vitals. So let's say I want to add in a height and weight for this patient. It pre-populates 70 as the previous height for non-pediatric patients. And then if I wanted to then document the weight, I can click on the weight and I can enter it in pounds or kilograms. So if I say 145 pounds here, save that. Now my vitals are documented for BMI as well because those auto calculate. I can go into temp, put in the patient's temp, save. I could go to blood pressure, type in the patient's blood pressure, save. And my heart rate, whatever oxygen saturation, just fill all the vitals in that you would normally fill in and mark vitals taken up at the top right. I go back to the progress note, I can see those vitals documented. Anything abnormal is going to show in red like previously in desktop version. And if I want to document examination, I can free document the exam, or I can do a template as well. So if I have a template for the exam, I just go to templates again, and I'm going to search this exam brief, see what's on it. So here's a general exam, just a brief general exam. So I'm going to use that template. But you notice that there's some other items on this template. So it's going to automatically pull in hyperthyroidism and on a lab here. That would not normally be on your template, but just to demonstrate how some of this stuff can come over. And again, your options will pull in whatever you have selected. So in this case, because I don't want all this, all the other stuff, I just want that exam to pull over. So I chose examination. So examination will come over, but none of the other stuff that was documented on that template will pull into my current note. I click on merge template. I'm going to get a message that it merged the template successfully. Click OK, click on progress note. You can see that it is now in the exam section. So you can see here. Now I'm going to go into the left panel to pull up my examination section. And this is under the general exam and all of the sections that have been documented here. So I can see general appearance, pleasant, well-nourished, well-developed, and in no acutest distress. If I need to add any documentation there, I click on the eye icon and I can update that information from here. Pull it out, retype it, whatever. Same thing when I go to the eyes section, I can click on the eye icon and I can then update the ENT, eyes, ears, throat information. Then we have neck, thyroid. Again, click on the little eye over to the right next to the plus sign. There's a little eye icon. That eye icon indicates your notes. So every time you see that eye, there's a notes section for that. And underneath the category is the notes that are documented in those sections. So you can see here's some documentation under neurologic. So you're just going to go in there and update the documentation for that section. Come back to the progress note. Now I have my histories, exam, notes, everything's documented. Next, we'll look at adding diagnosis and doing the treatment and orders and documenting immunizations and such next in the next training video.